Welcome, everybody. It's a new year. We're still on Zoom, but for a very good reason, because it's time to interview our new featured artist, composer, arranger for January, and it's Ben C. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Craig. Nice to be here.
I'm really delighted. This is a great way to start the year. Happy New Year to you. And
Happy
I'm
New Year.
that at last we've got some of your stuff on the site, and we're featuring you. And I've been having a listen, and it's all sounding great. So welcome, and I hope it really works for you.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's really lovely to join such an amazing team of arrangers and choir leaders and general choir organisers. And yeah, lots of names that I've known for many years, and some names and faces that I'm sort of aware of but haven't really connected with yet. So it's lovely to be part of the community.
Thank you. It's a nice community, isn't it? And also, we're looking forward to, I think, putting together some videos of ourselves singing stuff.
Yes.
I think there's something round the corner which we can't announce yet, but it'll
Yeah.
happen very soon.
Say no more.
Yeah, say no more. This is all about you, mate. So congratulations and welcome. And so I start with the same question I ask everybody, then it sort of branches out from there, and we sort of like we might hop around a little bit. But I
Okay.
love to ask people what their first recollection of music is, from their earliest memory. Do you have an early memory of when you were like 3 or 4, and music became a thing to you? Can you
Oh
think that far?
gosh. That's a very long time ago. Um,
Not as long as some of us.
I mean, music's always been important to me. I'm not from a particularly musical family, but my dad did have some old cassette tapes, and I remember using those, and I remember recording things off the radio, songs that I liked, and kind of
There
recording
you
them to
go.
cassettes,
I
which
was
dates
wondering
me a
whether
bit.
I
But
was wondering whether you were too young to do the cassette vinyl thing, but obviously this is good because you've inherited that from your dad. Did you have a little cassette player or sort of ghetto blaster or
we
something?
did. We had a double cassette player thing, so I'd record stuff off the radio and
Yeah.
then play it from one cassette to the other, and then record my. I sort of became a bit of a DJ and would sort of introduce the songs on one cassette, play it onto the other one, and yeah, all very nerdy stuff. But
Musical direction from an early age. Do you remember an early cassette? Did he record his own cassettes, or did he have like bought cassettes which you played? Do you remember playing some of those and enjoying
he
them?
had he had shop bought ones, and the ones that kind of resonated with me were actually he had a Madness compilation of Madness greatest hits, which for some, I don't know, me aged however old, it worked, and I really enjoyed that.
I can't think of a better introduction to music than listening to Madness when you were little. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. I
Any
mean, the other one that
songs?
sticks with me is getting CDs out of the library. One of the ones that really sticks with me is getting out a Beatles compilation pretty early on, and those songs are so well written, and that really just kind of resonated, and
What
I
what sort of age would you
completely
be?
submerged myself
What sort
in
of
that
age would you
sound
be
world.
there?
I think I was probably 8 or 9,
Right.
about that about
Yeah.
that age.
Any particular song that sort of hit you hard?
I mean, the one I remember singing around the kitchen was "Love Me Do," but
Yeah.
kind of all the Beatles tracks really. Um, yeah, that's probably the one I think of as being my earliest
Mm.
connection with the Beatles.
I think it was their first single as well, so you resonated with that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, we've got a Beatles medley at Young Voices this year, so hopefully
Yeah.
introducing lots of young kids to Beatles this year as well.
Yeah, great.
Excited, yes, never ending. So you say your parents weren't particularly musical, but your dad had cassettes, and is there anybody in your family that played an instrument or sang at all?
My parents aren't particularly musical, but they're both arty. So my dad is an interior designer and a muralist, and my mum works with furniture and pottery. So they're kind of arty, but yeah, not musically minded as such. But we've always had CDs in the house. Radio 4 is always on, and there's kind of music around.
Mm.
But no, I mean, really, it was through choirs that I got into music. Um, I think I did a lot of singing around the house, and my mum sort of directed me towards first a kind of local church choir, and then various other choirs, and it just kind of something clicked very quickly,
Right.
and that
Was there
was
singing? Was there singing at your primary school before that?
yes, but I don't remember particularly engaging with that actually. I
Okay.
think it was when it became a kind of extracurricular thing or something outside of school that it really uh, sort of identified with me and became, I guess it's that feeling of something being a hobby or being something that you connect with that's different from other people or something that happens outside of the school environment is it's kind of an important part of figuring out what you're interested in.
Yeah, so I'm guessing this is more sort of secondary school age, teenage years.
Yeah, I joined the my first choir when I was 8 or 9, something like that, and then I sang with a choir called Libera, which is a boys' choir.
Right.
I joined that a little bit later, and that was really my musical education.
So you sang in Libera with Rob Priceman.
I did, yeah.
Well, yes, that's what a tremendous opportunity that was. Fantastic experiences for you. Did you travel the world? Did you record?
We did, yeah, we did all of that stuff. And, as a musical education goes, it was kind of second to none, really. It was really very amazing and very kind of its own thing, totally its own thing. It sort of borrowed from, I guess, the cathedral choir tradition, but very much carved its own path. And Robert, as a musical director, um, was just a really, really important figure in my life, really. And but more than just teaching me to sing and giving me a kind of passion for music, he really gave me a direction in so many different ways. And part of what's so special about that group is that it's much more than just the singing. It's the kind of stagecraft, the
Yeah.
songwriting, the performance. It's a real education in lots of different ways.
What
And
was it like being that young and yet doing something to such a high standard? Knowing you were kind of world class at something. Well, how does that feel when you're like 10, 11?
um, it was exciting, but to be honest, I was kind of the age group where it kind of took off. So we never really. It's not like I joined it and uh, when it was already the kind of huge success that it is now. It was kind of sort of expanding and exploding while we were part of it. So we never really had this sense of it being anything other than just a sort of local church choir in some ways. And also that's kind of what Robert did so well was, sort of make it feel like a little community of friends rather than anything else. And, we did occasional TV things and recordings and things like that, which were really exciting and you know, came with a level of anticipation and nerves and all of that stuff. But really, we were just, kind of 20 children who then get on the minibus at the end of the day and clown around. And yeah.
Yeah. Can you remember any instance in particular that sticks with you? Any a particular memory of singing with Libera that really sticks out?
Oh, I mean, so many really. It was
Mm.
just such a formative and such a special time. And I might get a bit choked up actually because
Okay.
Robert passed away very
I know
recently, and
we lost him last year.
was, yeah, a kind of dear friend, amazing mentor, and kind of just an amazing shepherd really for so many young voices and musical minds. And I mean, my takeaway really from my time in Libera is uh, the number of people who've come out of it who are doing interesting things and sort of carving their own path. And I think what Rob did so well with the group was just giving people a sense of musical identity more than anything. Everybody who comes out of the choir has got a level of singing experience, definitely, but I think Rob was really good at sort of fostering what it is that you were interested in. So for me, he quite quickly identified that actually I was kind of interested in lyrics and words, and I don't think I necessarily would have figured that out myself, aged 10 or 11, but he somehow sort of figured that out for me, and then it became a bit of a thing. And he was right, and that was definitely what drew me in and what excited me. And the kind of connection that I felt to singing was definitely through the lyrics and the meaning of the songs that we were singing and
Mm.
things like that. And yeah, so
That's
I don't
very,
know.
very interesting, and it resonates with me a little bit. My mentor being Barry Rose at St Paul's, and I find that when I look back, as well as the amazing musical direction we had, there were so many life skills that we were taught as well, and you don't realize till later on what some of those life skills are. I think Robert clearly had some of that same approach, and that's stayed with you and many of your contemporaries. Is there anything we can point to the listeners and watchers that you were involved in? Is there any sort of YouTube video or recording of Libera that you were in that we can see you at that age? I don't know. People will be thinking that, wondering if there's anything you can.
There, I mean, yes, there is.
Is there? Come on, is there a
A
solo you're
small,
particularly fond of?
uh, I don't know if there's, I mean, a small YouTube search would take you down a bit of a wormhole, but really, I think what's great about the group is it's not so much about the individual voices, it's about the choir, and I think it's really special to see, that it's still going strong, and there are still some amazing songs and sounds coming out of it, and the thing that I feel most proud of actually is continually crossing paths with people who've been through Libera, either directly or kind of, you know, the world around it, and just feeling that instant connection. And there's something so kind of bonding about that whole experience. And yeah, it feels like something really special to have been a part of.
I think that does sound. What a wonderful legacy, and that makes a lot of sense to me. Hearing your arrangements and hearing your voice, and I can really sense that that grounding in that. So, how many years were you involved in that? From when to when? Can you give us a sort of time?
Yeah, so I joined when I was 10, I think, 10 or 11, and I sort of never really stopped being involved. I mean,
That's great.
when my voice changed in my late teens, I started, Robert kind of directed me towards doing a bit of lyric writing and some arranging for the boys' voices, and I started doing some teaching there as well. So it's kind of always been a really important part of my life, and the sort of choir leading that I do now um, really comes off the back of starting to do some teaching with the younger boys when I was in my teens, and getting a feel for teaching and sharing.
Mm. So, was that your first experience of directing as well?
Yeah, I think so. It's
Yeah.
my first experience of professional music making, really. I
Mm.
mean, it's a sort of fairly unique thing in that you're kind of a professional musician aged 10 or 11. You start to get paid for bits and to take singing very seriously, and
Mm.
so I kind of have this strange thing where I sort of never really knew anything else. I always knew that singing was kind of what I would do, and
Mm.
uh, yeah, so it sort of paved the way for everything, really.
Yeah. Um, did you conduct choirs at school as well that were separate or away from Libera? Did you start to direct choirs in other areas? You were still singing at a church at this time?
A little bit. I did some kind of acapella group type things,
Ah,
and enjoyed kind of small group stuff. But really, not till university did I kind of get properly into choir leading and thinking about, kind of directing groups and making sounds in that kind of way.
and was it a very obvious thing for you to tell this is kind of what I do, or did somebody come across you and say, "Hey, there's this over here. Do you want to come do this?" Did you? Was it a very self-generated thing?
It wasn't an obvious thing actually. I kind of always myself a bit more as a singer than a leader, and I wasn't, well, a bit like I was saying before. I was very interested in the kind of the words and the sounds and the vocal production really. And being a singer, I was less interested in the kind of technique of arranging or I wasn't particularly good pianist. I'm still not a very good pianist, so kind of accompanying choirs never really interested me. Um, it was really once I figured out that I could do something a cappella that it drew me in a bit more. One of the things I did at university was mess around quite a lot on a loop machine, and that for me was a real moment of figuring out that actually I did understand harmony in a way that perhaps I didn't think that I did, maybe
Mm.
because of my inability at the piano, or I don't know. I sort of hadn't really engaged with music in that way at all, more as a kind of soloist. So yeah, I think having a loop machine and sort of using my voice to bring the harmonies together, suddenly something made sense. And then actually, that's when I started getting into arranging and composing and thinking about structuring music and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So we're now at university. Which university was this?
This was at York University, which I
Oh,
believe you were at as well.
yes, indeed. So you asked quite a time after me, I think. A great place to be. And did you sing with the Yorkshire Bark Choir,
I
like
did,
I
I
did?
did, I
Some
did.
wonderful experiences, Matthew Passions and B minor mass, etc., etc.
I did. I had a really nice time at York actually, and the thing that was so good for me was it was a very open course, and you could kind of choose your own path all the way through all 3 years really,
Hmm.
and that was kind of perfect for me. I sort of in some ways knew exactly what I wanted to do, but also didn't at all, and so
Yeah.
the ability to kind of have a go at composition modules and electroacoustic modules was just great, and I really just had such a great time.
Yeah. Did you go off into any other sort of like far flung corners of music? I mean, when I was there, I think I got involved in singing and playing with the Javanese gamelan. Did you do a bit of that? Did you do the jazz band and
I
orchestra,
sort of,
etc.?
I sort of had a go at everything, and I think that's partly why I enjoyed university so much because
Yeah.
there was this sort of just freedom to chuck yourself at things and see what sticks. And like definitely the choir world was my kind of world, but I sort of had a go at all sorts of interesting things, and yeah, it was. I mean, the thing that actually that gave me the most direction were some of the composition modules because
Mm.
I'd never really thought of myself as a composer. I sort of went as a singer, and the sort of openness of the course at York was really encouraging and really supportive of me just having a go at composition and seeing if it was something for me. And yeah, that I think my takeaway from my time at York was actually that I could write music and I could find a way into doing it, and the sort of freedom of being able to do it on your own terms and figure out what you could bring to it um, was an important stepping stone.
Now, you mentioned a cappella earlier. Were there any sort of particular a cappella groups that you were influenced by that you listened to at this time to sort of further your studies in that area?
Well, I mean, over the years, it's been all of the greats. I was definitely an a cappella nerd in my teens, and still am to a degree. The groups that are really doing it for me now are actually some Scandinavian groups. There's a group called Orkavinda, who are incredible quartets from Sweden and Denmark, who are sort of putting their own slant on some Scandinavian folk tunes and
Okay.
just singing them with so much life, and they bringing in elements of improvisation in there as well, and it's just so joyful. But yeah,
Right.
I mean,
I
too
don't
many
know
to
them.
choose from.
I'll have to look them up. What? How do you say that again?
Orkavinda, so
Orcavinda.
Akervinda, Orkavinda.
Okay. And you say they're Scandinavian. Are they Swedish or?
Three of them are Swedish and one of them is Danish.
Excellent. Right. Well, I'm always into looking out for new stuff. So presumably you've heard you know about the real group, and you probably heard King Singers, Sweet Honey, Bobby McFerrin,
Yes,
and
yeah, actually,
Pentatonics, and all that.
yeah. Sweet Honey in the Rock and Bobby McFerrin, I think, are probably both big influences on my kind of community choir work right now. I mean, Sweet Honey in the Rock in particular, I've done lots of their arrangements over the years, and they sort of lend themselves so perfectly to that kind of
They do.
community group.
Yes, Bobby McFerrin, fantastic. That would have resonated with you, seeing as with your loops station, you were singing to yourself, and a lot of his early stuff was him singing to himself as well, layering different ideas and stuff. Is there any particular song of his that you love that you can point people towards to go and listen to?
I mean, I think Bobby McFerrin is amazing as a vocalist and an improviser and somebody who's just interested in the mechanics of the voice and the kind of
Mm,
sheer potential of what a human voice can do.
yeah.
And that interests me as well. And part of my interest in kind of looping and exploring different vocal textures is very much inspired by Bobby McFerrin and his I think his sort of like playful approach to the voice. Um, I find really enjoyable, and I think you could dive into any Bobby McFerrin stuff. I particularly like the Circle songs, and he has an album called Vocabularies, which is just
Extraordinary.
epic as well.
Well, yes, it's very much a development of what he did earlier because he has other people singing with him then, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And there's a great arrangement of The Garden, which originally was done on Medicine Man. I prefer the Medicine Man version myself. I think it's a bit more, well, it's just him, but it's all earthy. But
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
vocabulary version is incredible. So after university, let's leap a little bit. What was your first jobs after this? So you're now in the big wide world. How do you start making a living?
Um, well, I'm still doing a lot of stuff with Libera at this point, so
Oh, cool,
I'm doing
lovely.
lots of tours and teaching with them, and and then doing actually I did quite a lot of backing singing and session singing in my first couple of years after university, while I was kind of finding my feet really. And then slowly it started to be community choirs. I did a bit of kind of depping for a few people, and then started to run a couple myself. And yeah, and then I suppose uh, something kind of just felt right about sharing the love of singing.
Mm.
I think singing's given me so much that being able to sort of give it to other people just felt like the right calling card.
Yeah, so this is interesting. So you've been to university, you've worked with Libra at a very high level. How do you change or modify that approach with community singing when a lot of people don't have any training, they don't have any they can't read music, they learn and approach it in a very different way. Can you tell us something about your change of approach there?
Um, yeah, well, to be honest, I don't think there is much of a change of approach. I think one of the things that makes Libera so special is that actually it's quite inclusive and open in its kind of teaching style. I mean, Rob Price is an amazing musician, and I think I spent most of my time in Libera learning by ear, really. I mean, notes were often given out, but for me, just the way I learnt was mostly by ear, and
Wow.
it
Okay.
wasn't really until I started teaching that I figured out how to actually read music properly and sight read and things like that. And we were schooled in stuff like that, but at the same time, I think Rob recognised that my approach just somehow figured slightly differently. So I mostly learned by ear, and so when it came to teaching, that felt like the logical thing as well. And yeah, so I don't know. I sort of don't really see that much of a distinction between kind of professional communities singing. There's a lot of overlap for me, and yeah,
That's lovely. We're very pleased to have some of your arrangements now on featured on the site. I'm just going to get the list up here. Um, Tell us something about these. You've got in times like these. That's a lovely song that you've enabled that people to download that for free. I see.
yeah, that's a
So if you
freebie.
don't know yet, there's a free download of a very apt song for these times.
That's
That's
a
on
that's a definite
Amazon.
COVID song. It was when the pandemic struck and we were all forced online. That was one of those virtual choir videos that we did fairly swiftly, and yeah, it was a bit of a moment for me actually quite early on in the pandemic where suddenly all these submissions were coming in and we put this song together,
Mm.
and yeah, it felt very timely, and like a quite a special thing to have been involved with. So I'm really grateful actually to everybody who took part in that project. It's nice now to be able to share the music with anybody who wants to sing it.
And presumably there's a video for people to find and watch
There is, yeah.
of that, one of your lockdown projects, which we all remember fondly. I'm not sure. And then you've got a Beatles one straight away. I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Yeah,
Why did you choose that one in particular?
that's another lockdown one actually. I sort of put a call out to my choirs in lockdown asking what they'd like to sing, and people came up with lots of kind of titles that felt apt or resonated. And I Want to Hold Your Hand, lyrically felt like a good one when people were kind of distanced and unable to be anywhere near anyone they liked. Um, yeah, and it's just a great song. So it was another fun lockdown one.
I'm expecting everyone to go straight to the site now and have to listen to these afterwards. So it's a good little bit of advert for you. Everywhere, bit of Fleetwood Mac, fantastic song again. That's a
Yeah.
great arrangement, Ben. I really love what you've done with that.
Oh, thank you. I
Because
mean, it's kind of
it's very
irresistible.
subtle, yet all the elements of the song that we know are in there. And I think that's part of your your skill in that with only a few parts, you managed to convey the elements of the song that people are expecting, and it's all in there, which is great. Any particular love of Fleetwood Mac you can?
I'm quite late to the Fleetwood Mac
Are
party,
you?
actually. Relatively new discovery, but I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
It's the for me, it's the harmonies, isn't it? It's the harmonies. They
The
just get it.
harmonies. Yeah.
That's wonderful stuff. Right, I don't know Everlasting Light. Who are Dan Auerbach and Patrick Carney? That
So
sounds like
they're
an 80s.
actually
That's an 80s song.
they're actually a band called the Black Keys, and it's a funny one that I was asked to arrange it for my cousin's wedding, but I had to kind of disguise it as a sort of churchy song rather than a kind of rock tune,
Well,
which
it
is
could
what
be
it
the
is really.
title is a quite Everlasting Light. That fits
And
perfectly.
the lyrics are quite slushy as well, so it did feel right for a wedding. But yeah, I had to kind of sneak it past the vicar, so it's definitely disguised as a kind of sort of even song anthem, even though really it's a rock song.
Right. I'm a big fan of the song "The Call" by Regina Spektor. In fact, I've arranged that myself for my youth choir a few years back, and they did enjoy that because it's from now it's filmed. It's featured in a film. Is it the
It's
Land of
in
Witch
the Narnia Chronicles.
Narnia?
Yeah.
That's right. So, how did you come across that song, and what made you want to do that?
Well, I'm a big Regina Spektor fan, and have sort of grown up with her music really. As a teenager, her music was everything. I was obsessed with a couple of her albums that came out around about then. And yeah, I don't know, I was kind of looking for one of her songs to do with community choirs. And then actually, I didn't really know that one. I found it on Spotify,
Mm.
and I could just kind of just hear it
Yeah.
in choir language, and knew I had to arrange it.
It's one of those songs that I think hits you straight away, doesn't it? There's sort of an immediate drawing into the world of the song. I thought that was, and at the time when I first learnt that and first arranged that, it had a real special resonance with that, and the kids loved singing it as well. And then you got some folk music here: Bonnie Portmore, Old Lang Syne, and the Turtle Dove. I think I'm going to get that for my choir. I think that's absolutely gorgeous. I've
It's a
had
lovely song.
the Turtle Dove. Where does that come from?
It was collected in Sussex by Vaughan Williams, but it's an old English folk song, and yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of drawn to folk songs really in lots of ways, and I think they work really nicely for choirs in that community singing really is timeless, and it's great to do songs that feel really contemporary and really in the moment and on the in the charts or whatever. But I also think it's kind of nice to pay homage to the tradition of communal singing, and
Yeah,
for that you kind of have to dive into the folk tradition and the folk canon, and that's just the Turtle Dove is just a sort of achingly beautiful folk song.
fantastic. Ben, I'm going to wrap it up in a minute, but I'd like you to tell us what are you working on at the moment? Are you going to give us a little insight into something you've got planned over the next few months?
Yeah, I mean, most of my focus at the moment is singing a duo with another arranger on the choir
Yeah.
community site, Dom Stitchbury, and we've been singing together for most of lockdown, really, and we're in the process of writing an album. So that's kind of been taking up
Fantastic.
most of my headspace these last few weeks, and we're hoping to record it a bit later this year, ready for release in the autumn, we hope. But yeah, that's kind of that project has really sort of taken over my world the last half a year or so, and I'm really excited about it. And it feels really nice to be singing again. I sort of uh, have always been a singer and thought of myself as a singer, but have the last few years given most of my time and attention to community choirs, which I love as well. But to have a bit of a chance to refocus and re-engage with singing and performing has actually felt uh, just a really important and really
Mm.
it just feels good actually. It just feels nice to reconnect with that. My way into music is really what it feels like.
Well, everybody I've spoken to who's had a look at your stuff always remarks on the quality of the tracks that you do, and that comes across very much so as something that we look forward to hearing more, particularly the Ben and Dom project. That sounds exciting, and all the other arrangements you're going to be putting our way for choir community later in the year. Ben, it's great to meet you. Thanks so much for telling us about your early musical history and what makes you tick. Fascinating stuff.
Oh, well, really nice to chat to you. And as I said before, I'm very, very pleased to be part of this team of arrangers and choir leaders and, kind of generally singing enthusiasts.
Yeah, let's get the world singing. All right,
Yes.
wonderful to see you. Have a great year, Ben.
And you. Thanks, Craig.
See you at the next community arrangers meeting.
Yes, I'll be there.
Take care, mate. Bye bye.
Take care. Thanks.